Alright students, Jessica here, and I am introducing our next assignment, which is a portrait painting of an allegorical figure. Alright, so in most of my classes, over the course of the semester, I introduce different technical things like different color palettes or different painting techniques, and then towards the end of the semester, I ask everyone to come up with their own painting. Alright, so this is something I would like you to not do a master copy of, but to come up with your own painting. And this is really a way for me to ask you to synthesize those skills that you learned all semester and come up with an original painting using a lot of those concepts. Or, we use some very different, techniques, different painting styles, and choose whichever ones you're interested in developing further for this one. All right, so this, I just pasted this in here, the AI overview of an allegorical figure. So an allegorical figure is basically someone who represents an idea. So for example, if we see on the left this statue, it's very familiar to us. This figure represents the concept of liberty, right? So she represents liberty and freedom. She's got the torch, the book in her hand. Those are both representative of something and help to get across that this is not a real person, but an allegory or a narrative for an abstract concept. All right, so I'm not going to read you this right here, but you could go ahead and kind of pause the video and read through it if you want. So it's not like oh, this is my nephew, but on the other hand, if you would like to use a photo of your nephew and paint him as Cupid, the god of love, that is acceptable, right? So you can do a portrait of somebody, but you can use, most artwork that we're going to look at today, these artists did use somebody as a model, all right? So it's an original painting you're making. It is going to have the portrait in here, but it's representing an allegorical figure, okay? So the first part of this little lecture, I'm going to give an introduction to the assignment instructions and the timeline for this, and then after this I'm just going to go in and show you probably like 75 paintings that I like. And this is just to give you some inspiration, and talk about it a little bit so you can kind of see all of the different possibilities, so many different ways you can go with this. All right, so into the timeline. For week 1, I'm going to ask you to brainstorm some ideas. Do some thumbnail sketches. Again, a thumbnail sketch is a sketch about the composition of your piece, how you're thinking you want to look, and just trying to get your ideas out there. These thumbnails, they can be, pencil, charcoal, just doing some sketches on paper. They could also be digital sketches. So if you're familiar with either, Photoshop or Procreate or Adobe Fresco or any of those things, and you want to kind of, or even, maybe you have some magazine photos you've saved, and you want to kind of like cut them out and collage them together as an idea for your composition, any of that, just to try to figure out what you're going to do before you do it, and then post it. So post your artist statement / idea. So if you're posting, for example, someone named Liberty, someone to represent the allegory of liberty, you want to talk about that and maybe talk about different symbolism or metaphors you may be using. So if she's holding a torch, talk about why and, what that means, all right? And the act of writing this out is going to help you refine your idea. Also, please type out your description of your plan for this piece. So which medium you're going to use, how big your canvas is going to be, what painting method you're going to use. So maybe you want to use palette knife painting, all right? Any techniques like that you think is going to help suit your concept or communicate your concept to the people looking at your artwork. And talk about what sort of mood you want your viewers to get from looking at your piece and how these visual qualities are going to impart this to them. I am going to say that it is a tumultuous time right now with all of the political stuff going on, and I want to say that everyone here is free to express. Some people are just going to want to keep it light, and that's totally valid. Some people might want to make more of a statement, and that's equally as valid, right? So I want everyone to feel comfortable making whatever sort of statement they want in any of my classes, and we can all give them feedback in terms of, the artistic techniques they're using to convey that, even, how well their idea is being conveyed. And it's fine if we don't all agree on, certain points of view. There is actually a political science class if you would like to debate that. Okay, moving on. All right, so in addition to posting your artist statement and your description and what you're trying to get at with your painting, we're also going to draw, like I mentioned, thumbnail sketches of your idea. Try to work out your composition. The sketches should be the shape of the canvas. So you're going to draw a little, if you have a square canvas, please sketch out a little square shape, right? If you have a rectangle, sketch it out. If you're going to have horizontal or vertical, if you're trying to think it out, you could do multiple ones. I'll show you some examples in a minute. All right. And I also recommend giving some thought to the size of your canvas. So if it's too small, it's going to be pretty difficult to get, a portrait to look the way you want. All right, so here are some examples for the week one for this thumbnail. So here on the left, I have, I had an idea. The Madonna and Child is a common allegorical figure. So figures from, like abstract concepts of liberty, things like that, but also mythological or cultural figures like mother and child, religious figures. They're also very symbolic, metaphor-heavy, allegorical figures, right? So I'm taking that, except I don't have children, but I do have a cat, so I'm kind of like making a play on that here. But anyhow, I had kind of an idea, did some sketches, and then I also took some photographs of myself with my cat, trying to think about what lighting I wanted. So when I took this, I set up my phone on the timer for the camera, and I looked into the window light, right? So so I'm looking to the side, I'm thinking about, over here I had kind of an idea, would it look okay from the front? But I chose the kind of the side view here for myself. Right, so you can see, so I didn't actually make this painting, I was just showing my students how to do thumbnails and everything, so unfortunately, this is not a painting, but just you can see how I'm sketching a rectangle to show the shape of the canvas. I'm showing that I'm thinking about the composition. See how I'm leaving some space here. I don't have to copy, this photo. Look at the space here on the photo. That doesn't mean I have to paint that, right? So this photo is for my reference, but I don't have to copy the photo, right? Here's some examples from some of my students sketching out some thumbnails. These students were, they had a lot of ideas. They weren't sure yet, but, if you sketch a bunch of little thumbnails, then you can quickly glance between all of the different ones and see which one you have a visual preference for. All right, this one on the left, this student had a couple different ideas of her kind of dual aspects of, her personality or being undecided. So she has she had a hard time making decisions, so she was showing like two of herself with clouds, so she's trying to get different ways to get at the same idea. Right, and here just, thumbnail sketches do not have to be very detailed, especially if you're just trying to get, this student had just three very simple thumbnail sketches to try to think about, different ways to convey this concept that he had and wasn't quite sure how he wanted his painting to look yet. All right, so in addition to describing what you want to paint, doing some sketches, also post any reference photos, right? So if you have a person, and they're going to be in the clouds, get some pictures of some clouds. If there's going to be a sky with the sun, get all that stuff, right? And then finally, we're still on week one here. Please comment and give feedback and advice to your classmates. Your advice is going to be most useful to them before they get started on the project. So if they do, if they post some thumbnails and you notice like, oh, maybe if you got rid of this part and then you could zoom in on the face, it would make your painting more focused. That's more use to everybody before they actually get started. All right, so please comment and give feedback. At least a couple people, if you look at any of these and think of, you have some advice for them, please, so we're trying to help each other make the best paintings we can. All right. So here I have a student who had some ideas of, a lady laying in the water, and I just took a screenshot here. I just Googled lady laying in water photo, and you can see there's a lot of different reference photos that, it's interesting. So you can, how does her skin change color when it goes under the water? Or, maybe there's certain like reflections on the water, how the water looks when it touches against her face, right? So, if you wanted to make a painting of Ophelia, who is a Shakespearean character from, she's, a character from the play Hamlet, and she is an allegorical figure for, a lot of different concepts, right? She's not a real person, but she, she does have some sort of meaning and metaphor in her plight, right? So if you wanted to make a painting of Ophelia, at least if I did, this is where I would start, and just, looking through images and thinking like, oh, I'm going to use this one for the way that the water reflection kind of works. Maybe I will use this one for the, so there's different, you don't have to use an image for your whole composition, but maybe you like the way the water beads up on the side of her head, or maybe you like the way the reflection on this one, so you can cobble together a bunch of different reference images for this. And please include them and tell us what your plan is for that photo. All right, now that was all instructions for the first week of this project. We have 3 more weeks in the semester. Week 2, we're gonna, get started on the painting, and I recommend going a little larger with this one. I don't know about all you folks, but this is a painting that I would be unable to complete in 1 week. Right, so we have the first week is our planning, weeks 2 and 3 is our work, and then by week 4 that's our final exam week when you post your stuff and give each other some feedback and congratulations, and I'll give you my final feedback on your piece. All right, so now we are on to part 2 of this lecture. Please know that I also posted this very slideshow for your reference. So if you would rather just kind of look through the slideshow and look at these images at your own speed, you can. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of talk about them. So this, it's kind of disjointed because I really enjoy art, and especially allegorical figures like this. So this is a huge just overview of a million different directions you could go with this. So this is a bunch of allegorical figures in art that I personally enjoy, right? And it's just as a way to kind of, it's almost like a show and tell, but also just to kind of inspire you and get you thinking and maybe give you some ideas, all right? So this is by the painter Artemisia Gentileschi, and this is Self-Portrait as the Allegory of Painting, all right? I'm not going to read all this to you. You can pause and read if you want to. And this, this is your typical allegorical figure. This is allegorical figure of the French Republic. So this lady is France. Look at her, she is France. Okay, and that's, that's basically an allegorical figure, right? This figure represents jurisprudence, from the year 1800. She's got some sort of weapon in her hand. There's a rainbow behind her. I don't know what this is. Maybe some sort of plumb bob or, sighting tool. I don't know. All right. This is a drawing by Tiepolo, a study for allegorical representation of the 4 continents. As we know today, there are more than 4 continents, and this figure is supposed to represent Africa, which, interestingly enough, she doesn't appear very African to me. But I see an elephant trunk kind of coming off the top of her head. All right. This is Acramboldo, who, if you're not familiar with him, he's a wonderful painter from 16th, 17th century, who painted people out of fruit. So this is an allegorical figure representing spring. All right, and here we have another allegorical figure. This is Liberty, so kind of like our Statue of Liberty, which also came from France, but this is Liberty leading the people. All right, so this is Eugene Delacroix from 1830. You can see she is, leading the people in their revolution, or whatever it is that they're doing. Let's see. Yep. Commemorating the revolution that restored the Bourbon king to the throne. This is a commemoration of a revolt. And, these people are being led by Liberty herself, holding the French flag. All right. I'll leave you to read this if you want to. All right, and here's one of my favorites. This is Francisco Goya. So he did a series called Los Caprichos, and this is, there's a lot of just tumultuous times that Goya lived through. He witnessed a lot of terror, a lot of death and war, and this is called The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters. All right, so this figure is an allegorical, the figure of reason. They're sleeping, and monsters are allowed to, just run wild. And I think, this, could be the figure of reason, or it could, have a deeper meaning, which is all of us as a society, right? He did a whole series of these. Some of them are very dramatic. This one, I forget what it is. You know, and another one. This is Saturn devouring his son. Right, and this was painted like on the wall of his home. It's very so. A lot of these ones that I'm showing you all are, some of them are happy and fun, and some of them have a little bit, a little bit of angst. I'm gonna say, like I mentioned, Goya saw a lot of things during his time, a lot of war, and this is based off the Greek mythological tale of Saturn, or is it Jupiter? I don't know. Anyhow, Saturn, which was Zeus's father, there was a prophecy that one of his children would eventually kill him and take his place. So anytime one of his children were born, he would eat them, right? So this is, there's all sorts of meaning under there, but layers of meaning in that myth that we could analyze. But this is a combination of Goya's own experiences in his time and, an expression of that angst, but also, using this allegorical figure or this mythological figure as a vehicle to express his angst. All right, Jerome did a lot of really interesting allegorical figures. This is one of my favorite paintings ever in the world, and I know you all hear me say that kind of often, but what can I say? This one is just fantastic. This is truth coming out of her well to shame mankind. Right? Look, she's holding a whip. She's going to come out and whip us, and we should be ashamed. Look at her. She is ashamed of us. All right. Moving on. Allegory of victory. Right? She is, vanquished her foe. She's got wings. Victory is an allegorical figure from, there are statues of her from ancient Greece. Victory has wings very often. She has a palm frond in her hand. I don't know, palm fronds, I know they do have religious significance in Christian martyr paintings. I don't exactly know what it means here, but yes, she's standing on her vanquished enemy. This is an allegory of time, Father Time. He's got that sickle in his hand. He's got some wings. There's all kinds of little attributes throughout this painting. Pickaxe, all kinds of things that all, have their little individual meanings here. If you'd like to pause, I'm not gonna, I put all this text here, and you can see there are links down there as well. And they don't, unfortunately, the links don't work when you hover over the video because this is recording. But like I said, I am including the slideshow for you to peruse, and if any of these, if I have links on them, you can click if you would like to read more. All right, this is Botticelli's Birth of Venus. So, she's the goddess of beauty, fertility, fecundity, etc. And, the shell is from, she was born from like the sea foam or whatever. I'm going to get into that in too much detail. But then we have the winds blowing her. So these people here are allegorical figures. They represent the wind, right? Here we have Allegory of Time Governed by Prudence by Titian. This one is an interesting one. This is eternity. So this is an allegorical figure of eternity. And this, this is a little bit more, I want to say, it's a little bit more creative and free in terms of the artist not trying to stick to your traditional portrait or your, traditional, like, something like this as an allegorical figure. That's what, comes to my mind, right? So you are totally free to, if you want to get something a little bit more expressive and less married to imagery, like traditional imagery, please do wherever your heart takes you on this project. All right, Evelyn de Morgan, Night and Sleep. So beautiful. Evelyn de Morgan is one of the very few female artists that was in the pre-Raphaelite movement. All right, Spring, La Primavera. This is a little bit more modern painting. This one here is not spring, but Botticelli did one called Primavera that looks pretty similar to this. I mean, it looks like a Botticelli, and this one here is a little bit more modern one. We have this white doe in the background. We have these flowers, and she is the spring. All right. Let's see, The Anarchist, Sascha Schneider, 1894. We see man with, it appears to be a bomb with a lit fuse. And then we have, what is this over here on the right? To me, it looks like the Assyrian gate, which to me, as someone who knows art history, represents civilization. The Babylonian gates, they're one of the seven wonders of the world, very famous of an ancient civilization. And the anarchist here, he is going to try to blow that up. So an anarchist is someone who, I don't know if they would say they're against civilization, right? But someone who wants to, is against the, certain power structures of the world. Another Evelyn de Morgan, I'm sorry, folks, that I didn't put these in better order. The Angel of Death. Right, so this person is, the sickle is very recognizable. The wings identify them as an angel. And, it's an interesting interpretation of death. A lot of times death is a, terrifying skeleton in a black robe. This person looks like they're putting their hand gently on this person. All right, this is this is William Holman Hunt. This is called The Awakening Conscience. William Holman Hunt was a very he's an artist who had a lot of opinion. He's a pretty religious person. Tried to tell people how to live a lot with his painting. So this one, so in this picture we have this fellow with the mustache trying to play the piano and have a good time and party, and this woman was sitting on his lap partying with him, I guess, and just happened to see the light. She just had an epiphany. Wow, maybe I shouldn't have fun and party with this guy, and I should go off and be more of a moral person. Right? So you can see there's all kinds of, you could look, there's an unraveling thread, there's her glove on the ground. All of these things are going to mean something. We have this little cat under there, right? Another Four Continents by Rubens. I don't know which of these people are which continents. I see more people here than four, but whatever continents they were aware of in the year 1612. Right, we have the tiger, the crocodile, and some little angels and stuff. So these people are all allegorical figures. All right, this is Judith Leister, The Last Drop. So yeah, basically some sort of allegory. Drinking and smoking are bad for you. You could see Death is here. He's holding an hourglass in his hand. He has an empty beer stein, right? And they look like he looks like he's had a little bit of alcohol already. All right, and then this is a famous one. Again, another one that is pretty expressive and moves. It's pretty different and modern, different than your typical allegorical figure painting. And now, this is a very famous painting that, we're used to it now. It's been parodied. You could buy socks with this guy on it. You can see this where it's got like a cat, instead of this man. But Edward Munch has written about this moment before. He said he was walking on the bridge with his friends and had an episode where he said he heard this terrible scream that just reverberated through the entire universe, and it was terrifying. And this is his depiction of that moment. Right, so he was a troubled person, right? All right, and here is William Blake. I love William Blake. This is the sun at his eastern gate, and I think this is just so. So the sun. Personified in this man here, and you can see the fire raging behind it, and all these people with, I don't know what they are, angels with food, some tacos or something, and just this beautiful composition. He's just bursting, through the eastern gate here, and you can see the little people plowing their land and stuff down there. All right, this is The Triumph of Darkness by Sasha Schneider. All right. Yeah, there's a man on his tomb, and then that person must be darkness, I guess. Personification of darkness, allegorical figure. All right, this is a pretty interesting one. This is American Progress. All right, so this woman, now it's funny because she is the allegorical figure of American progress, and from the time it was. We can look at it through today's lens and see that, is this necessary? So we have the settlers, and she has the telephone or telegram, whatever it is. She's bringing it with her and just kind of laying it as she just like goes. Oh, she goes westward here, right? And we have all these people bringing, civilization, progress, right? And you have the Native Americans and the buffalo kind of being driven away. These wild animals, this wolf being kind of driven away by the light of progress. So yeah, it's problematic, but it is interesting, just from an art historical perspective. This figure of progress, and the idea of manifest destiny, like it's the destiny of these settlers to kind of go in there and this definitely has a certain point of view to it, right? This is actually in the Autry Museum in Los Angeles. All right, now I'm going to let you all read this in the these slides on your own time. I'm not going to read it to you. All right, here's another one. This is by Albert Bierstadt, who I think this painting is a much more skilled painting. Like this one, it's a little on the awkward side, just the composition and everything. It's yes, she's an allegorical figure. It has a certain weirdness to it, right? That I think a lot of medieval paintings had a certain weirdness to it as well. This is a lot more beautiful, a lot more skilled painting, and Albert Bierstadt is from the Romanticism movement, right? So this is called The Last Buffalo, Last of the Buffalo, and we have this Native American, beautiful composition of him just like spearing this buffalo, and it is it is romanticizing this. This is like at this time they're like, oh, Native Americans are going extinct, their way of life is going extinct, and this is like a romanticization of it. It's like this tragic figure, right? So this person is, this Native American, and these Native American people are sort of like this allegory for like the end of end of an era, basically, right? Which brings us to Wendy Red Star. So she's an artist who's alive today. She is Native American, and she does these photo collages. So this is like set up like a diorama she set up and posed herself. And took these photographs of herself, and they're poking fun at like this kind of thing of like, oh, the Native American in this idyllic landscape, right? It's all different and changed because she is composing this herself, and Native Americans are in fact still alive, right? They still exist and have their own culture, and this is interesting to me because she's making herself as this sort of allegorical figure here. And we have all this nature and everything, but showing these clearly like whatever they are, cardboard cutouts, showing that it's artifice, that it's kind of fake, is taking it's making fun of this in a way, right? This is anyhow. Moving on. Veronese, Allegory of Wisdom and Strength. Right, I'm gonna guess which one is wisdom here. She's got a little tiny moon sun with face over there, over her head. All right, moving on. This is Kathy Kollwitz. So, Kathy Kollwitz, an artist who lost a child in, I believe it was World War II. Right, so this is called grief, right? So she's seen a lot. She has been through a lot in her life, and it's very, very emotive, very expressive. Even the mark making in this, I would say, is very It's very just loose, angst ridden, and pretty expressive here. All right, another one by Kollwitz, Death Seizes a Woman. All right. This is Raphael, Portrait of a Young Lady with a Unicorn. Now, we don't know exactly who she is. It probably is a portrait, but the little that little unicorn guy down there definitely has a meaning. And there's certain allegories from medieval and Renaissance time period about unicorns being the symbol of male virility and can only be tamed by a virgin. So this, she is sort of, in this case, an allegory for purity, for femininity, also, wealth and status. This is an interesting one I found, allegorical painting of two ladies. That's a really interesting one. This artist is unknown. Um, I'll let you read all about that if you want to pause. It's super interesting. All right, and this is Botticelli again. Allegorical portrait of Simonetta Vespucci. All right, so she is someone that's in the Medici circle, but she's wearing a hairstyle, it says here, that can typically be seen on nymphs. So it's kind of like this allegorical portrait of her that she dressed up, wear certain clothing, certain jewelry, certain hairstyle to convey a certain, certain allegory. All right, this is George Frederick Watts' Hope. All right, so this is Hope. She's like in the ocean on a ball. Her harp has only one string left. All the strings are broken except for one, but she still plays that one string, right? There's that one star shining in the sky, right? All right, and we are on to Bouguereau. Now, Bouguereau, one of the most beautiful painters there ever. I mean, not like he himself is beautiful, but his paintings are, in my opinion, he's really good at painting. Anyways, Equality Before Death. And another Bouguereau. This is Charity. All right, so we have this woman just taking care of all of these needy children. There's a pot tipped over with money falling out of it. There's some books, there's some columns. This is another Bouguereau, L'Innocence. I don't know, I'm sorry everyone, I should not attempt to pronounce things in French. Innocence. We've got the lamb, we've got the baby. Here we are, Aang. This is Jupiter and Thetis. So, yes, these are, Jupiter, and Thetis, Zeus and his wife Hera. Allegorical figures, yes, they're mythological figures, but look at Zeus. He is just, he is just grumpy. He's very, he's very strong, compositionally, horizontal, vertical, very solid, and Thetis is just draped over him. Right. She's trying to, she's the epitome of softness. She looks like she has no bones in her body. Right. A lot of Aang's women look like they have no bones. Right. He knows how to paint them. This man certainly has bones. Right. So he's an allegory for power, for, I don't know, male angst. And she is an allegory for this kind of like softness, nurturing type femininity. All right, and then Rodin here, the thinker. Obviously, this is sculpture, but just, you can, so I guess what I'm trying to say here is that you can use an allegory that's well known, liberty, justice, spring, winter, the sun, or, you can do something like this, this is a road, think of like, you could come up with your own allegory for anything you want. The thinker, is that something that, was a thing before this Rodin sculpture? I don't know that it was. All right, and then Carlo Crivelli, Madonna and Child. I thought this was interesting. There's a whole bunch of writing about this with, the cucumber. The cucumber and the apple, like the apple is a symbol of like the downfall of mankind. Eve ate the apple, and then the cucumber is a symbol of redemption. Which, I didn't know that. But, the cucumber is a reversal of the apple. Anyways, this is kind of like the Metropolitan Museum of Art supports this connection. So yeah, we have mankind's downfall and redemption in the symbolism back there. So we have, yes, she's an allegorical figure. Yes, and we have the Christ child holding a little bird with his arms, with his little wings out to kind of look like a cross as a sort of foreshadowing for what's going to. I don't know what's up with that fly, everyone. Right? I'm gonna skip this one now. You can read about this if you want to. All right, Franz von Stuck, Austrian painter, I believe, from early 20th century. This is Lucifer. Sorry for the grainy image here. This is Eve, and while I do love Franz von Stuck, that's maybe one of the worst snakes I've ever seen. I saw this in person. It was at the Fry Museum in Seattle. All right, another Franz von Stuck, Head of Medusa. This one is a really beautiful one. Another Franz von Stuck, Wind and Wave. So we have this fellow here is the wind, and this woman is the wave. Right, Hades, and the Pietà. All right, getting to the end here. This is Patricia Watwood, who is one of my professors from when I was a graduate student. So she paints from life. She hires models, does sketches, and then paints from them. This is Harbinger. You can see the crows back there. This is using herself, called Creation, and it's a self-portrait. So this is her when she was pregnant, as the figure of creation. And I thought this was interesting because, yes, there's the obvious, like, okay, this woman is pregnant, but also you can see she's got her palette and paintbrush in her hands. And she's also a creator in the fact that she's an artist. And you can see the nude models behind her that she paints from. So it's a kind of a, dual, or, more than one meaning in this self-portrait as an allegory of creation. All right, another one of Patricia's paintings. This is Pandora, Pandora's box, allegorical figure, another, woman as the downfall of all mankind kind of thing. And you can see she's putting this allegorical figure from ancient Greece into modern society. So you can see all this garbage she's sitting on. You can see a city in the background, and poppies in her hair. Red poppies are symbolic of death. All right, another painting by Patricia. I don't know what this one is. I seem to have neglected to post a title on here, but, woman reading here. Another Patricia Watwood painting, Venus Awakes. So Venus is waking up, but instead of in that seashell like Botticelli painted, she's on a pile of garbage. Right, another, sleeping Venus. This one, I forget, I thought I posted the titles for all these. I guess I forgot to. I forget who this is. We can imagine what allegorical figure she is. She's dancing. There's a skeleton dancing and a person dancing. This is The Sixth Extinction by Patricia Watwood. Femin Flora. More still with Patricia Watwood here. And then, oh yeah, this one is my Primavera. So this is, springtime. So this is a model, a person. I painted her portrait. The lily, the model was posing with this lily. Lilies have a lot of symbolism, flowers in general, springtime, whatnot. I put those little hummingbirds in there as, those are male hummingbirds, and they are furiously battling. When I moved down here, I noticed, hummingbirds are completely ferocious, territorial little animals, very vicious. So we have those guys as you think of springtime, you think of like the birds and the bees. We have the I put a little praying mantis on her hand as well. All right, and that's the end of this lecture. So I hope, even though it was rather disjointed, and that's because allegorical figures as subject matter in paintings is so kind of vast and so varied. I'm just hoping to show you a little bit of what's out there, and hopefully give you some inspiration and give you some ideas for some of those sketches for this week.